Hello and welcome. My name is David Chill and we run www.hotfoiluk.com. As well as that, I am chairman of FoilLink, the National Foil Printers Club. Welcome to our second set of video clips, and by popular demand today we're going to be talking about typesetting. This is often very confusing for most people, and let me start with a little bit of background. First of all, there are four main styles of type. We have lead type, Mazak type, Founders type and brass type, all of them being slightly different. So let's start. Lead type is often a component mainly of lead and was designed for letterpress printing and to take in ink. It hasn't been designed for hot foil printing, so be wary of that. The next one is Founders type. This is the most common type that you will find, and probably out of all type made in the world it accounts for 95–96%. Again, it was designed primarily for letterpress printing, but you can use it for hot foil printing. Founders type has a mixture of lead, tin and antimony, which means that it is slightly harder than the straightforward lead type and will withstand heat, although if you heat it up too much it is liable to melt or disfigure quite quickly. Therefore, when using it, you can probably get a few thousand impressions out of the type before it starts to wear down. Particularly if you are looking on somewhere like eBay and they tell you that they have hot foil type, the likelihood is it is probably Founders type and they are mislabeling it or labelling it so you will buy it for hot foil printing. The only two types that are really suitable for hot foil printing will be Mazak type and brass. Mazak is an alloy type and it's very difficult to distinguish from standard Founders type. And here's a little tip. Mazak type often will be of a slightly lighter weight if you have the two, one in each hand, and on the older type it has a slight white bloom or looks a slightly lighter colour than the Founders type. The other thing is, if you do actually have the name, Founders type was given one type of name, Mazak another. So for example, when you come across type which is quite popular as Diana Italic or Granby, those would be Mazak faces, whereas something like Gill or Times Roman, those are likely to be the Founders typeface. Finally, brass type. Brass type is intended specifically for hot foil printing, used by bookbinders, is incredibly good, will last you a lifetime and a little bit more, but the only downside to it is that it is really rather expensive. So whereas Founders type will cost you one amount of money, brass will be 5 or 6 times more expensive and is also quite difficult to get hold of. Sadly, in the UK and Europe there are very few type makers left. While most of the type that you will find will be British or Imperial type, I do also want to show you that there is Continental type, and here is an example of some Continental type. The thing to remember is Continental type used the Dido system and was a slightly different height to the British Imperial type, which was 0.918 of an inch high. So one thing you can't do is mix up Continental type with British type, as it will not print, as they're going to be slightly different levels. I have here an example of some type, and in fact this is a 60-point typeface. Now again, another little tip or hint for you, there are 72 points within an inch. So you can tell how large your type is by dividing that. So if your typeface was a 36-point typeface, it would be half an inch high. if it was an 18-point typeface, it would be 1/4 of an inch high. It's also good to remember that most books and most pamphlets that are easy to read are printed in 12-point type, and probably if you have computers you'll know, because your machine will default probably to something like Arial 10-point or Arial 12-point, because it's one of the easier typefaces to read. Now we're talking about type, I want to start to talk about setting type. Now this is what confuses a lot of people, of how to set type. Now of course you have to remember, when you're reading a book you read from left to right. When you are setting type you have to set it from right to left or backwards, because when you print it, it will then print in the right way. It's a mirror image. Also, people get a little bit concerned when setting type because they find it small or fiddly. Try not to concern yourself with this too much. It's just one of those processes when you're setting type. But one of the little points to remember is some people find it quite difficult, because when you have a letter such as an H or an I, how do you know if they are the right way round? Well, all type should have a little nick on the bottom of them which denotes the right way up, and once you start setting type you will notice that there is a little line or nick, and you just need to make sure they're all in line and the correct way. Otherwise you'll have some letters that look a little bit higher or a little bit lower than others. So what we're going to do now is just set up some type for a hot foil printing job. If we come over here, what I have first of all is a small composing stick. You can either have something like this or just set it freehand, but it's always useful to have something to hold your type into to stop it falling over. What I'm going to do is, here you can see our cabinet of type, and you can see we have named it, we have put on a type size, and we've also denoted where the uppercase or capitals are and where the lowercase are or the small letters are. So I'm just going to take out 2 of the trays. This first tray that we're taking out over here has our spacers, M's, M's and quads. Those are technical words for the different sizes of the spacers, either at the ends of the words or in between the letters.